For example, they can say they shall not increase their equity ratio above a certain limit. Because as a lender, I'm concerned about that. Because once I give them my money, it's theirs. I just have to wait for them to pay me back. Whether or not they will is a doubtful question. Once they borrow the money from me, what stops them borrowing a lot more? If they borrow a lot more, and let's say they borrowed collateralized after that, they borrowed $100 million from me, and they bought a building, and let's say they went ahead and used that building as a collateral and got a mortgage on that building and borrowed more. Now, when it comes to bankruptcy proceedings, the collateralized loans take precedence. In fact, there's a specific asset pledged to that one. So if the firm declares bankruptcy, the bank that gave the mortgage can come and foreclose on the building without worrying about what the judge is going to say about bankruptcy proceedings, because it's pledged for that loan. But as a person who gave him an unsecured loan, that would not make me happy. Because in the case of bankruptcy, that building could have been used to liquidate and give me some money. So the bond covenant may say they shall not, get mortgages at all or above a certain level. The purpose of these covenants is to protect the lenders. Okay? In many cases, you say they cannot increase the debt equity ratio. Otherwise, I'm going to be concerned about it. Many bonds have some optionalities into them. A lot of the bonds have what we call call options. Here's what that means. I borrowed $100 million, and these days the rates are high, right? So suppose I borrowed at 7%. And 2 years from today, the rates went down to 4%. Or my credit rating has improved, so I can actually borrow at a lower rate. But I borrowed for 10 years. I basically have to pay that 7% for 10 years. Not if you have a call provision in that bond, which means there's usually a call protected time. It happens to be 1 year. Once the bond is no longer call protected, you can go to the bondholders and say, you want your money back? There is your money, give me my bonds back. I'm basically paying you early. There is usually a price associated with that. That's the call price. And as a bondholder, that's going to happen precisely at the time you don't want it. I mean, you lend to this firm, you're getting 7%, you're happy. Once the firm gives you your money back, you look at the market, you can only get 4. Okay? Well, that's lovely for the firm, not so lovely for you. That means there should be a cost to that. In fact, everything else being the same, callable options cost less, they're more discounted than regular bonds. Why? If I know you're going to pull that call prank on me, instead of paying you a par, I'm going to give you a little bit less. That's my compensation for it. Certain bonds have put options on them. That means the lenders can't simply say after a certain period, well, I don't want to wait for 10 years. Here are your bonds, pay me back. So the bondholders initiate that. They're rare, but sometimes it happens. It typically gives some sort of security to the bondholders. They think I can get my money back before these guys are actually bankrupt. And of course, puttable bonds sell at a more premium compared to other ones. Why? Because when you do that, I'm not going to be very happy. I don't want to pay you yet. But you want it early. Well, if you want that flexibility, you're going to have to pay me more. There's another type of bond that's kind of a mixture between stock and bonds. They're called convertible bonds. These are actually very popular in Asia. You could also see some of it in startups. I mean, Tesla has some convertibles, for example. Here's what that means. I borrow, let's say, a $1,000 face value bond. It's a 10-year bond. And after a certain period, investors have the option to say, take your bond back. Instead, give me 5 shares of Tesla. You write that ratio into the contract. So if Tesla is trading today at 200, I mean, right now, those two are equivalent. But you're not going to do it when Tesla is trading at 200. If Tesla is trading at 400, you're going to say, okay, take your bond, give me 5 shares. That's worth now for 2,000 instead of 1,000. If it's below 200, you're not going to make that swap. You're going to keep getting your interest on it. Of course, that conversion option has value for the investors. That means they have to pay a premium. In many cases, convertible bonds have zero coupons because I give you something of value. So the value of that option actually pays for the coupon in a sense. And it's kind of a hybrid way of investing into a firm. If things go really well, you're going to make a lot of money. So you're basically gaining from the outside. But if things do not go that well, but firm is not bankrupt, you're going to keep getting your return on it. That's kind of the idea. Oh, let me talk about the yield curve. The rest of the stuff you can read in the book. Have you guys ever heard something called yield curve in the news and any other stuff? Yield curve, it sounds fancy, but it's just a little graph. And let me go into my writing mode again. Now you know why I wanted this computer. You're going to do a graph on the horizontal axis. You have time to maturity. And here you have the yields, something like that. In normal times, that's what most yield curves look like. And remember, the yield on 30-year bonds are not the same thing as yield on 1-year bond. So we're going to actually talk about why are they different. If you want to see the current yield curve, among other places, let's see. And this is already in place. If you go to marketwatch.com, define. No, I'm not interested. Okay, let's go to U.S. Treasury yield curve. If you don't know anything, okay. I don't know if they have the graph, but let's actually copy these and do our own graph. This is for 1st of February, but you get the idea. Come on, make a copy of yourself. So this is, I'm gonna do it in months, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12, 24, 36, 60, 84, 120, 240. And I'm basically going to do a graph. Insert, if you use this little box with the dots on it, that's a scatter graph. I'm going to move that to another sheet. That's how it looks like. Uh, you're probably thinking there's too much white space in that bottom. When quantities matter, do not eliminate that white space by changing the minimal of the axis. Uh, let's let's go ahead and do it. Format axis, and I'm gonna make the minimum 3.5. It looks like that dive is very significant, right?